Hello there. So Windows Power Toys, I always want to call them Power Tools, but they're Power Toys, are something that I find a lot of people aren't aware of, but they can be really helpful. So basically what they are free, my favorite word, free additional tools and features that you can use to customize your Windows experience, and very often it helps make you way more productive. And plus you can have a little more fun along the way. So we're going to talk about how to get them and how to use them. Let's get going. Alrighty, here we go. So, sorry, this one is just for my Windows folks out there. This is all about Windows Power Toys, which are a set of tools that are available for free but not installed by default by Microsoft when you install Windows. This applies to Windows 10 and Windows 11, but actually the Power Toys go way back. I think that they actually started, if I remember right, somewhere around Windows 98. And they've evolved and changed over time, but the good news is they're still there. So we're going to talk about, how you can get them, right? Because that's important, a starting point. And then what's available inside of them, because there's a bunch of different things. And it's really important to remember that I'm going to show you what's available at this point in time, which is February 2022. But they add things all the time, which is kind of a nice little perk. So even after you install it, if you choose to, you're going to want to check in every once in a while and see if they've added anything new, because, hey, new stuff is always fun. So just as an example, in January of this year, they added a couple of new things. One is called Always on Top, which, amazingly enough, keeps a window that you choose always on top. They put some new mouse utilities in, and they added the video conference mute. We all know why that's there, right? So those are just some examples of the way that they are constantly evolving and changing over time. So it's always worth it's always worth it to keep an eye out to see what else is going on. Alrighty. So, as always, the links are in the description. I will say, sorry, Facebook, I made some last minute changes to the link, so I will update the post with the updated links. But of the folks in YouTube world, they are getting the most up-to-date links. And of course, Twitter folks, if you're watching, you're going to have to go to one or the other, because I can't put all that information in 150 or whatever the character count is these days. All right, so let me show you what we are talking about. So when you go and you click on one of the links, like I said, this is not included in Windows. You won't find it if you go and click on the install, right? It's not a part of that set either. Where you can add new features, like if you're going to load IIS, if you're going to build a local web app or something. It's not included in that list. You have to go someplace specific to do it, and that link is in the description, and I'm going to show you what happens when you go. So this is the screen that you'll see when you click on that link. There's a ton of really good information here. Now, you need to understand that a lot of this is targeted at developers, but not all of it, right? So you're going to have to go through and cherry pick a little bit. Don't be overwhelmed. You don't have to be a developer at all to use these, trust me. But they have opened it up. They have put it out on GitHub, which is a place where developers can share ideas and suggest things and submit code and that kind of stuff. So it is there for that. But you can go through and check it all out. But in order to get started, the thing that you're going to need to do is do the install. Now, the very first button you're going to see is definitely not targeted at all of us. It's definitely targeted at the, geekier among us. And you can totally go there if you want to. If you are familiar with GitHub and all that, you can go ahead and do that. However, that's not the one I recommend. And I have a direct link in the description for you. But if you go this method, you're going to want to come down here to where it says Alternative Install Methods and click on Microsoft Store. That's going to make your life much easier, because you'll go into a much more familiar user interface. The installation process is much easier, all that kind of good stuff. So you can go ahead and check that out. When you're in there, these are the apps that are available today. So Always on Top is handy, right? Because sometimes things are popping up when you're trying to work on something. Personally, I find that very annoying. So let me just back up here for a quick second. All of these, for the most part, are single-purpose tools, right? They serve a particular purpose, and they generally do one thing, and they do it well. So that's why, you're going to see things like Always on Top. You're like, okay, You don't have to use it, but if you need it, it is very helpful to have. So that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so let me keep going here. So really it is that simple. It's just, you can choose, to have one be on top, and then you can toggle that on and off. There's all kinds of settings and stuff for it. That's the one thing that I've noticed, that they have made like customizing each individual tool much, much easier. And so you can get all kinds of information on it. The awake is if you want to keep your system awake, for longer than normal, right? So if you've got the power settings so that, after a certain time of inactivity, it's going to shut down. But there are times when that's not what you need, right? That's not helpful. So just a recent example for me, I needed to upload 30 plus videos for a client to a particular server. Video files take a while. And some of these were rather large, but I wanted them to keep going. I didn't want to have to keep coming back to the computer and keep it going. So that's actually what made me think about PowerToys. I haven't actually thought about them in a while, but it's like, I really need something to keep it awake. And yes, I can go in and I can change my power settings and all that, but then I might forget, to do it because, we're human. So I went and I found this, and so I set this up so that while I needed it to stay awake, while it was just loading file, and I didn't have to worry about losing the connection while I was doing that, because, the internet and things happen. This is another one that, again, not all of you out there may ever need, but for those of us who do any kind of graphic work on any level, having a global color picker available to us in Windows is wonderful. Now, yes, there are other tools that you can go get and use for that, but some of them don't pick up every app that you're using or everything that's on your screen. This will pick up colors from whatever it is that's displaying on your screen, which I find really helpful. So, hey, and it's free. What's not to like about this? Now, this is another one that I use a lot, and I'm not going to go through all of them, I think, because there's too many of them here, but this is another one that I do like a lot. Fancy zones. So the idea with this is you can specify certain areas of your screen to always contain something, right? So you can say, every time I open my email, put it in the upper left corner. Every time I open up Discord, put it in the upper right corner. And you can configure these. There are different layouts for it. This is one, again, if you spend a lot of time on things, and have a lot going on your system all the time, this can be really helpful, because you don't have to, every time you boot things up, put everything where you like to have it. You can figure out once where you want everything, and then use a tool like this so that automatically everything will go exactly where you want it to go until you change your mind. So that's super helpful. So then you'll see over here, like, this is another one that's handy. And like, there's File Explorer stuff, there's an image resizer, there's a keyboard manager, there's all kinds of mouse utilities. Where's the other one, though? There's one in here that does... That's the rewind. That's the... You can remap your keyboard. That can be very handy. There's another one in here, and of course, now it's not popping out to me, but there's one that will bring up all the keyboard shortcuts for Windows with, a particular keyboard sequence. I love that, because I'm all about keyboard sequences, but I only remember the ones I use on a regular basis. And sometimes, when I go into an app, I don't use it on a regular basis, or I need pieces of functionality in Windows that I don't use on a regular basis. It's nice to just be able to bring that up. Okay, keystroke, boom, I'm in there. I don't have to search and find what's it called and all that kind of stuff. So from that standpoint, that's another great resource to use. So yeah, it goes on and on. The mouse utilities is really handy, particularly if you do any kind of training, because you can turn on the spotlight so that it follows your mouse, because sometimes it's a little hard when you're doing on-screen training for people to see exactly where you're clicking until you click, and by then they may have missed something. So this is a really helpful thing, and it's something you're not going to want on all the time, but it's handy to turn on and off when you're trying to demo something or create some sort of training, because it makes it much easier for people to follow where you're going with your mouse or your wherever you're putting your cursor. You may not be using a mouse, you may be a tablet person like me, or it could be touch, or however. So I'll just show you what that looks like, because I have a nice little GIF here. So what it does is, instead of trying to find that little tiny dot, that is your cursor, you can just go ahead and turn it on, and then it will help you find it. So it's useful for two things. Sometimes you just lose track of your cursor, especially if you're like me and you have multiple monitors going. But also it's really good, like I said, for doing that kind of training stuff. The other nice thing about these tools is They're very low weight. They're not going to chew up a lot of resources. So it's not something you have to worry about having on your system. It's not going to conflict with anything, all that kind of good stuff. All right, so, you can go through, you can read all that stuff. If you do decide to go to GitHub, let me just show you what to look for. You're going to want to dig around, and eventually you'll find that the thing that takes you to, let me bring this back here. So when you go into GitHub, if you've never been here before, it can be a little overwhelming. And so that's why, you don't have to do it this way. Like I said, there's a link that will take you right to the Microsoft Store to download it and install it. But if you do decide that you want to go here, if you scroll down long enough, you will get to the point where it gives you, again, alternatives. It does include the Microsoft Store option here, but this is the thing that most of us are going to want to use. If you do get it from GitHub and you're not looking to work with the code, you're going to look for the one that's got the exe extension on it. And when you click on that, it's going to go here. Really? I mean it. Oh, right. I clicked on that. Okay, here we go. Okay, and then you're going to want to come down to this section that says Assets over here. And you're going to look for whatever the current version file is that ends in .exe. That's essentially what you're going to get when you go to the Microsoft Store. So if you decide you do want to go the GitHub route to get your file, that is what you want to look for. Okay? It's really not hard. It takes a minute or two to get it all installed. And then once you've got it installed, you'll see it. Let me switch back here. It'll show up down in your taskbar, down in the bottom here. And then you're just going to click on it to open it up, and then it's going to have a list of all of the current things, and you can go into any single one of them. Let's see, let me pick one. Power Rename, that's another good one. And you can get information about it. You can click here to learn more about it. You can turn things on and off. So let's say you're going through the list and there are things you want and things you don't need. You can turn them on individually. You may see, particularly here, when you first go in, you may see here something telling you that you need to restart because this has to run in admin mode. So that is important. You do need to make sure that you have admin access enabled for this tool in order for it to do what it needs to do. It's fine. It's, while it's in GitHub, and other people can contribute, it is a Microsoft approved tool set, and they are the ones maintaining it, so it is okay and safe to go ahead and use this. Just make sure you're getting it from a valid source. That's always important, so those links are in the description. But then you can go in, and depending on the tool, there are different ways that you can customize it. So all of those things will be here. Here it is, Shortcut Guide. That's the one I was looking for. So you can change the opacity on this particular one. So it's going to depend as you go from one to another. But it's pretty straightforward. It's all right in front of you. And at the top, there's always an opportunity to go and learn more about it. And then once you've made your selections and you've got things turned on and off, it just sits there and waits for you to tell it that, hey, you need it to do something. So then it's ready to go. And that's really it. I mean, this is going to be a short one because there's not a whole lot to it. But because it just came up for me for reasons, oh, gee, I haven't, had that for a while. And I remembered that they had this thing that was helpful. That's what made me go and look for it. And sure enough, it was still there. So I was able to upload my 30 plus videos for the client. And the, connection kept going. So it only took about a day because they were some big files. And the server I was going to was not exactly the swiftest thing on the planet, but because I had my power tool installed and ready to go, I didn't have to worry about it. I just, I went over and checked on it every once in a while I was getting other things done, but it reminded me of how useful the PowerToys can be and how easy they are to work with. So let's just for kicks, we'll go and we'll look, because this is the other one that I just find useful. Now, as always, your mileage may vary. But this one, can I actually, let's see. So Windows Shift / okay, so Windows Shift / okay, so there it is, at work. It brought up, the keyboard. I don't know why I've got this little window here. I'm not sure what that's doing. But I've got all of my shortcuts here. So voice typing, that's something I need every so often. So, there's a shortcut for that. So that's just an example of, how you use these kinds of things. Power rename, that's another one that's handy. That is really helpful if you need to batch rename, a files. Like I said, there are other plugins that you can go to do it, but for me, it's nice to have one resource, especially something that comes from Microsoft, because I know they'll keep it, safe and they'll keep it up to date. And it makes it really easy because, sometimes, again, you get files from a client, or, maybe you're doing screen captures, or you're doing, videos on your phone or whatever, and they've got, really helpful file names like 001 ABC, but, so you can go in and you can add a pattern to it and have them, renamed to something that's a little bit more logical for you and easier to find. So it's definitely worth going to check out. Again, it's not part of the Microsoft install. It's not something that you install from the install menu in Microsoft. You do have to go and click on the link and get that file. But once you do, you click on it, and if you go with the EXE version, it's very simple and easy and lightweight and fun to use. So there you go. That is the topic for this one. I hope that you will at least go in and check it out. Selectively turn on and off the things that you want or don't want, and let me know what you think about it. Let me know what your favorite is. Like, if you want to jump in the comments and let me know, that would be great, because I like to hear how people use these things. And if you have any questions, comments, if you have an idea for the show that you want me to cover, go ahead and contact me at yourtechcoach.net. There's a form there. Just let me know what your question, comment, or show idea is, and we will get that into the mix. If you have a question that you need a fast answer on, all I ask is that you make sure you give me a way to get back in touch. Email is usually the best. Otherwise, all I can do is assume that you meant it for a future show, which is fine. But I just want to make sure that if you need an answer, you get that answer. Okay? All right, everybody, go check out the PowerToys. Have some fun with them. Get them to, work for you and make your life a little bit easier inside of the Windows world. Again, these are free, and it's for Windows 10 and Windows 11. That's the versions that are available now. All right, everybody, have a good one. Thanks so much for stopping by. I will see you next week. Bye.